Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 12 of the Steeler Culture Podcast, presented by SteelTwins.com and a part of the Steel City Podcast Network. We are the Steel Twins. We're going to go over the latest Steelers news this past week, as the Steelers have been very busy post-draft. The draft is over, but that's not going to stop the Steelers from doing any sort of business and filling in roster spots for training camp and even extending certain players on their roster and even bringing in guys for visits.
Which is actually pretty rare when it comes to the Steelers around this time after the draft, because they hardly, in the Kevin Colbert era, they never really made many moves. But Omar Khan, he's changing it up a bit. Yeah, it's his time now.
Typically around this time, this is when everything is just very low, very dead in terms of news, especially for the Steelers. But yeah, Omar Khan in his first full offseason is telling you, hey, I'm doing stuff my way, which is, that's kind of how we like it. We like to get Steelers news continuously, and that's what Omar Khan has given us, thankfully.
Yeah.
We started off with what happened on Monday. The Steelers brought in former Jets linebacker as well as a former 49ers and Buccaneers linebacker.
And Saints linebacker.
I forgot he was a Saint.
Yeah, Quan Alexander. They brought him in for a visit last Monday, which is actually pretty interesting, as it looks like they're still looking to add more bodies to the inside linebacker room.
As they need to, because obviously they have their pass rushers. They have their run-stopping guys in Holcomb and Landon Roberts. They still like Mark Robinson a lot. But they don't have that coverage linebacker. They have guys they can insert there in certain dime packages and three safety sets, like a Keanu Neal. He has experience at the position. As of now, in terms of what we have on the roster, he's probably going to be our coverage inside guy when it comes to that certain aspect of the defense. But we still don't have a natural coverage linebacker. That's what Quan Alexander would be. Now, typically for the Steelers, if they bring in a guy for a visit and he leaves, that typically means there was no agreement. And there was no agreement between the Steelers and Quan Alexander. Now, that doesn't entirely shut the door on him signing with the Steelers, but if you're talking history, if history wants to repeat itself, when a guy leaves the facility, 9 times out of 10, he's not signing a contract.
Yeah, who remembers the Dante Hightower incident, when he was set to hit free agency before signing a big mega extension with the New England Patriots?
Many, many ages ago. So this could be very similar. Now, Quan Alexander's not the same player he used to be. No, he's not a Pro Bowler like he used to be.
Now, when he signed that big mega deal in 2019 with the 49ers, he's nowhere near that player he used to be.
And he still has injury concerns, but he's still incredibly resourceful. And last year was one of his better seasons as he showed he can remain healthy. He played all 17 games for the Jets and showed he is still a force in the rushing attack. He is very good in the run defense, and he can still lay the hammer. He's still a physical linebacker, which fits what we need at the inside position. But he obviously is a very good coverage linebacker, which that's the only thing we need at inside linebacker. But no agreement was made. It doesn't entirely shut the door, but
it shows that interest is still there. And the Steelers have always had their eye on Quan Alexander, as they did have I'm not sure if it was a pre-draft visit or if they showed just a huge amount of interest back in 2015 when he was drafted by Tampa Bay in the 4th round.
And at only 28 years old, he'll be 29 come the season. A good 1-year deal, if that does happen, will be very solid to fill this inside linebacker position, as it is already improved from last year just based on the guys we got and what they're going to bring to the defense. But if they do eventually get an agreement with Alexander, that would be pretty much the cherry on top of what the Steelers have done at the inside linebacker position.
And how much they've changed that position, too, as far as leadership, playing experience, starting experience, and just athleticism at the position.
Yeah, and it's nothing mind-blowing. It's not a lot of crazy household names. It's no elites, but they're very serviceable guys that will improve at the position for sure. But Quan Alexander was brought in for a visit. No agreement has been made. It doesn't shut the door, but, we'll see what the future holds in terms of that.
It shows that they're obviously still keeping the door open for adding more bodies inside linebacker, whether that is Quan Alexander or maybe even potentially bringing back Miles Jack.
Yeah.
As far as coverage linebackers are concerned.
Yes, that's still a great possibility. The Steelers signed cornerback Luke Barco from the XFL. He's one of the few guys that they signed from the XFL after the XFL season has concluded. Barco was an undrafted free agent in 2020 and was on a variety of teams, mainly on their practice squad, which hence why he went to the XFL for an opportunity, and that's where he really showcased himself. And he was brought in for a tryout, and obviously he impressed enough, and he's going to be brought in as a camp body, mostly for the cornerback position. But with his size, 6'1", 180-ish, I think he could have a great opportunity and a good chance to work in the slot, as that is still very undetermined. That's still unknown. That's still arguably our biggest hole in terms of the entire team. I mean, we did cut Arthur Millette due to his request a couple weeks ago. So we don't have any crazy experience out at slot corner outside of maybe Chan Sullivan, but that nothing's guaranteed there. No. There's so much lack of experience at the slot position. This is where he could get his feet wet. This is where he could get that opportunity that he's been seeking in the NFL.
After putting up a season with the Brahmas, who were actually head coached by Steeler great Hines Ward, your favorite, he put up 31 total tackles, 1 sack, 3 tackles for loss, 1 forced fumble and fumble recovery, as well as 1 interception. It was enough for him to actually make or be named to the All-XFL team last year.
That tells me he's all around the football. He's all around the football, which as a slot corner, that's what we need. That's what the Steelers have breeded in their nickel guys. So I don't know exactly if he's going to be given that opportunity there, but I think that's where he should see that opportunity because that's where we need it. We already have our outside guys locked down. We already have the depth. We already have the guys we drafted, the guys we brought in. I think we ought to give him a chance to be the nickel guy. Yeah. I think that'd be a great opportunity for him, and I'm excited to see what he can do.
And speaking of former XFL players that are now with the Steelers, it is official that they have signed wide receiver Hakeem Butler.
Yeah.
He was a part of the St. Louis Battlehawks of the XFL and racked up 51 catches for 599 yards and a league best 8 touchdowns, as well as he was also named to the All-XFL team. As you guys know, he was a 4th-round selection out of Iowa State by the Arizona Cardinals. He didn't really make much in his first stint in the NFL, as he was a bit of a journeyman.
Yeah, I mean, at one point he went with the Eagles and tried as a tight end, and that didn't work.
No, hence why he went to the XFL, went to St. Louis, and balled there, and now he has another opportunity with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, I always liked Butler coming out of Iowa State. I loved his size. That's something we really needed, which is why we got Chase Claypool the following year. But Butler and his size is something we lack at the receiver position. I will say we don't have a lot of size. I think our biggest receiver might be Pickens, maybe Allen Robinson. We don't have a lot of outs, except Miles Boykin, if you want to consider him, right? We don't have a lot of outside depth. We don't have a lot of massive receivers. We don't have that size that we lost in Claypool. Now, he'll see some time outside, but most likely in the slot as that big body figure.
Yeah.
I think that's a mismatch from a measurable aspect. His hands was a concern coming out of Iowa State, but a league best 8 touchdowns in the XFL shows you he is growing, and this is definitely going to be a great second chance for him in the NFL.
And this is what leagues like the XFL, the USFL, even, way back in 2020, the AAF, these minor football leagues, this is a big chance for guys like Luke Barco and Hakeem Butler to get back into the NFL and make a name for himself to get in there as potential depth.
Yeah, so I really like this Butler signing. I think he could be a very solid depth piece, get his feet wet in special teams, kind of very similar to a Miles Boykin, just a little bit more receiver upside. I already see a lot of people saying he's going to make the 53. He's going to take the spot over Gunner. I wouldn't go that far. Let's see what he's got in training camp and the preseason. I'm excited for that. But, I think this is a great second chance for him. We still lack a little bit of dependability at the receiver depth, and I think his size is going to be a great factor. So I'm excited to see if he can really take advantage of this second chance for him. So, yeah. Hakeem Butler, he definitely has a great opportunity. I will say that. So I'm excited to see what he can do in the receiving room for sure. And where we're going to use his size. So
his size, speed, and deep threat ability.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what really stuck out to him back in Iowa State. So this is a big opportunity for Butler.
Yep.
And what better team to give that opportunity than the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Same thing could be said for undrafted rookie free agent running back Alfonso Graham that they signed to apparently, a 3-year deal, I heard?
I think something along the lines like that. Yeah, the Steelers actually brought in Graham to their rookie minicamp on a tryout basis, and due to his performance, it actually resulted in him signing with the team.
Yeah.
He only played 2 seasons back at Morgan State, but he actually put up productive numbers in his last season, 2022, with 196 carries for 1,150 yards and 8 touchdowns.
Yeah, definitely very productive in his last year. Now, he's going to have another guy that's going to get a good opportunity because that third running back role is still undetermined. I don't think we brought back Benny Snell. We have Anthony McFarland, Master Teague, guys like that to potentially take that spot. But it's still up for grabs. And someone like him is going to get a great opportunity to try to make the 53 as that third guy. Maybe if he does get that 53 spot as the third running back, maybe he gets a hat on game day and potentially see some time as a rotational guy, as the Steelers are really going back to the ground and pound style of Steelers football. So he's another guy I'm really looking forward to in terms of preseason and training camp for sure, to see if he can take that advantage, take this opportunity, and definitely gain a roster spot. So Steelers like him a lot to give him a 3-year deal, and I think he should fit nicely. So we'll see what he's got come the training camp months.
Yeah, really, that third running back spot is wide open. It's a big opportunity for either of the 3 running backs that you just named.
Yeah, absolutely. Steelers signed offensive tackle Dylan Cook. Cook was an undrafted free agent last year and spent the 2022 season on the Tampa Bay Bucks practice squad. So there's a little backstory on him. He's coming in mostly as a camp body. He's another guy that's going to get an opportunity to be a backup tackle behind Broderick Jones and Chucks, potentially.
Luke Barco, Hakeem Butler, Alfonso Graham, and Dylan Cook. They're pretty much just filling up the roster to fill up the 90-man roster for training camp and OTAs and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's mainly the basis of this, but there's definitely a great opportunity for all these guys to make the roster. That's exactly what this is for rookie mini camp, for the XFL, see what these guys got, and the Steelers found a lot of interest in these guys to give them roster spots, bring them in for camp, and give them these great opportunities. That's all it is. That's all these guys want, right, is an opportunity. And I'm excited to see if they can take it. So this is what training camp, this is what preseason is all about. And all these guys I'm looking forward to watching for sure, because they're going to see a majority of the time in preseason. So get used to these names and let's see what these guys got for sure.
Absolutely. Now, one man
that will not be on the Steelers training camp or preseason roster or Steelers roster in general, because he was finally cut. And I say finally because, we already have guys that can fill his spot. The Steelers officially released cornerback Ahkello Witherspoon.
Now, Witherspoon, actually, believe it or not, he was set to have a $5.48 million cap hit in 2023 due to the extension that Steelers gave him last offseason. I remember that offseason. Many Steelers fans, us included,
we're pounding the table.
We're preaching.
Get this guy back.
Resign this man. I remember his first season as a Steeler when we traded for him from Seattle. He was a productive guy. He came in later into the season. He was a productive cornerback. He was pretty much a shutdown guy, quote unquote.
Statistically, in the second half of the 2021 season, he was essentially a shutdown guy. He was
opposite of Joe Hayden, the number 2. He was really productive.
He was getting picks. He was allowing, he wasn't allowing a lot of yards and receptions. He was someone that was worthy of bringing back. A lot of us were pounding the table for him,
and then, so the Steelers did, but last season, he just didn't live up to the contract. He didn't live up to the upside or the potential. Jamar Chase, week 1, just completely torched him, as well as the other receivers that he went up against. And then he suffered an injury that pretty much put him on IR the rest of the year. He even tried to get back on the roster, but at that point, there was no point or no role for him on the defense.
Yeah, at this point, man, Witherspoon just was very expendable. And this was his biggest concern, was consistency. If he could remain consistent, we've seen what he can be. But ultimately, he cannot be consistent, and thus he is no longer a Pittsburgh Steeler.
And now his release will now save the Steelers $4 million in salary cap,
which the Steelers could definitely use, and I think they're going to use that very interestingly, as well as some other stuff we're going to talk about. But to touch quickly on Witherspoon, it's just we've been saying for months we have guys that can fill his spot. Bring back James Pierre, cut Witherspoon, save $4 million cap. Pierre can do everything Witherspoon can, if better. He can play special teams. He can be a sub-package guy. He's someone you trust more. He's a little bit. He's as inconsistent, but he's a better football player.
He is,
at least from what we saw on the field.
And with the Steelers drafting Corey Trice in the 7th round, he's another guy that had a lot of 3rd round talks in the draft, but for some reason, we know what reason, he was injured. And that caused him to fall into the 7th round, which caused the Steelers to take him. And now this is his big opportunity to fight for not only a roster spot, but to get on the football field as a special teamer, as a rotational piece in the secondary. Share reps with James Pierre.
Yeah, so we have guys that can fill his spot and do it better. Guys like Pierre and guys like Trice. Trice is still unproven, and I think the hype should calm down a little bit just because he's a 7th rounder. He could have been drafted higher, but he's a 7th rounder. I think we'll have an entirely different video regarding that discussion because I really want to get into Trice a little bit later on.
But with this release, that's a big opportunity.
Absolutely, and I'm excited for it. But yeah, we just have guys that can fill his role, so there's no need for Witherspoon.
And Ahkello, best of luck to you in your future, but you were expandable.
Yeah, he was. Now this one's interesting. This one is very interesting because I don't think a lot of us anticipated this. Steelers will sign quarterback Mason Rudolph to a 1-year deal. He will be returning as the Steelers' 3rd-string quarterback for the 2023 season. Now, everyone's saying there's no guarantee he makes the roster. He's going to battle with Tanner Morgan.
I've even seen some people say, they hope that Tanner Morgan beats out Mason.
I don't understand this hate from Mason. I never understood it. I'm trying to process and think it. I don't understand the hate for Mason.
Can someone that hates Mason or does not like Mason in general, can they please explain to us why they don't like him?
Is it because he sucks? Okay, if that's your opinion, fine. You have that right. You're a fan. You can feel any certain way about a player based on their on-field ability, right? You have every right to do that. You're a fan of the team. You can feel that way. Like how we feel about Dan Moore. We don't hate Dan Moore. It's nothing personal with the guy. It's just he wasn't doing his job and why we were so
vocal about, hey, get a freaking offensive tackle, get an offensive lineman in the first round, and that's what they did. Thank God.
Exactly.
Thank God.
But I'm not saying, I'm not hating Dan Moore to the core like some of these Mason haters are. I just don't understand it. But he's brought back as the third string quarterback. You got to remember that, a third string quarterback. He's going to be in every game inactive, bearing any injuries. And I do think he is going to make the 53.
But it's crazy how he's brought back to the team considering everything that was going on throughout his tenure with the Steelers.
Yes.
Everything that happened.
Not just from a fan base aspect, but obviously we know his roller coaster of a 2019 season. What a crazy first year for Mason to step into the Steelers' shoes, right?
Yeah.
A lot of pressure, then the Earl Thomas stuff, the Myles Garrett stuff, then splitting reps and getting benched with Duck Hodges. It's crazy. And I guess some of that is some reason why he's getting hate from fans. I don't know. I don't know. But I think he deserves to have a second string role somewhere else in the NFL. And he even said that there were teams that called. There were teams that were interested. But he actually wanted to come back to the Steelers. So there you have it. And I think for that, he deserves a lot of respect and some credit. Whether you like him, love him, hate him, he deserves a little bit of respect for that. Not just based on because he wanted to come back to the Steelers, but out of everything he's been through, right? He's had some of the craziest stuff happen to him for a young quarterback since coming into the league, right? And he's been the utmost professional.
Yeah.
In every aspect.
Like everything that's happened and the teams that have called him, he could have straight up went into Omar Khan's office, Mike Tomlin's office, says, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to be out. I want to go to another team where they could give me a second string opportunity or a true opportunity to compete for a role.
And I remember
on another team.
I remember last year there were trade rumors surrounding that in early training camp because we brought in Mitch, drafted Kenny. There was no role for Mason, this and that. Now, Mason's coming back as the third string quarterback, and our quarterback room is going to be the same as last year. Continuity in the quarterback room, which I really like.
And to have Mason's professionalism and his leadership, I think that's more in his playing. I don't think he's that bad of a quarterback on the field. I think he's a capable, pure backup to a starting quarterback. For them to have that role as a number 3, though, to have that leadership, professionalism, but that chemistry with the players.
The chemistry, everything, being under the system for how many years, right? He's coming to his 6th year as a Steeler. For a third string quarterback, that is not even fathomable with any third string quarterback in the NFL.
There's nothing to hate about it.
No, there's not. This has zero downside for a third string quarterback who won't get a helmet on game day bearing any injuries. There's nothing to hate on this. He's just coming back as a third stringer. But to have everything that Mason brings for a third stringer is great to have in the NFL. And even continuity in the quarterback room with Kenny, as we've moved further into life after Ben, is great to have. As well as all the leadership from all the quarterbacks in the quarterback room, right?
That's what you want.
That's great. I can't hate it.
That's great to have. Why would anybody hate that?
And I will say this, man. You can consider this a hot take. I personally trust Mason more than Mitch. That's just me. But that didn't stop the Steelers from extending Mitch Trubisky.
No, that's not the only move that they did when it comes to the quarterback room. Later in the week, I think it was Thursday, Omar Khan was actually on the Pat McAfee show. Mm-hmm. And McAfee actually asked him, what his plans were for that Thursday afternoon, and he admitted that we're nearing a extension with quarterback Mitch Trubisky, and shortly after that, Ian Rappaport reported that the Steelers are extending Mitch Trubisky to a new 2-year deal, which now means he will be under contract for the next 3 years for the Steelers, which is worth up to $19.4 million with upside. that Trubisky could now earn a total of $33 million.
Right. So it's a good deal for Mitch. And as we know, coming into this year, I remember coming into this offseason, there were talks of we should trade Mitch. We should cut Mitch to save $10 million in cap, right? Because he had a $10 million cap hit. That's a lot for a second-string quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Now with this extension, that levels that out. This is a 2-year extension, essentially, which levels out his $10 million cap hit, which will now be much lower. And now we have a backup quarterback for the next 2 to 3 years behind Kenny.
Yeah.
Which you can't hate. Think of Mitch how you want. Like I said, I personally trust Mason more than Mitch, but, Omar Quan couldn't be any more favorable towards Mitch in his combine interview. He couldn't praise him enough from how he came into the locker room, the day he stepped in as a Steeler, his leadership, his help towards Kenny and all the offensive players. He couldn't praise him enough. And he even stated he wanted Mitch around for the next couple of years. And Omar Khan got that wish, and he made sure that was possible by extending the 2 years. So.
And it's pretty crazy how this extension has actually happened because, like Mason, there was some tension there was reported tension between Mitch and not only Steelers players, but with the Steelers in general. Because who remembers the Deontay Johnson debacle situation in the locker room that was reported? Johnson apparently threw a punch at Trubisky, and that led Tomlin to choose Kenny to get into the starting lineup. That was completely false. That was wrong.
That was completely false. No, we didn't put in Kenny just because Mitch and Deontay had beef.
No, I do believe that there was a verbal back and forth with the two.
Oh yeah, well Mike Tomlin didn't downgrade that when he was asked early into the season.
But to throw a punch, get the hell out of here.
It's just two guys that love football, that are, just...
And at that time, Kenny had to come in. Mitch was not doing his job well.
Exactly.
But we knew what Mitch's role was. We knew what his role was when he first signed with the Steelers.
And he did that role nicely versus the Bucs, which I will give Mitch this. He got us, Steelers fans, our last win against Tom Brady, so I'll give Mitch that. Now, he also did throw 3 picks against the Ravens, which is still a very ugly game. That was Kenny's second concussion, by the way.
Yeah.
But
it shows Mitch is not perfect.
No, we knew this.
And even after the season, Mitch even came out and said, I kind of wish I didn't jump the gun in free agency. And everyone thought that was kind of a dig at the Steelers, like he didn't want to be here anymore. He just simply stated that he kind of wished he didn't rush his decision on the first day of free agency.
He wanted to weigh all his options. But clearly, he's comfortable in the role he's in as the backup behind Kenny, helping Kenny. And same thing for Mason. This is what you want in the quarterback room, right? All the rumors, all the talks, all the discussion of trade rumors and beef with players and locker room and the franchise. Clearly, all that is now squashed and water under the bridge, if there was anything, because these guys are brought back behind Kenny, and the cornerback room is going to be the same thing for this year and potentially years to come.
Yeah.
Which I love. I think that's great to have for the quarterback room. I think that's great to have for Kenny, and it shows the amount of professionalism and leadership that these guys have. And at the quarterback room, that's very important in today's NFL. And that's very important with helping not only a lot of the young guys in the offense, but especially Kenny. That's a tone setter, honestly, in the locker room. So you got to appreciate that.
You can't hate it.
No.
And it's beneficial when it comes to the entire offense and the quarterback room and the players.
Yep.
That's what you want. That's what you need. That's what you would love to have.
That's what this locker room...
And that's what we got.
You
can't hate it.
That's what this locker room needs. So think of these players how you want as players, but as professionals, as guys in the locker room, they're good deals, and it's good to have these guys back.
It's a reason why Mitch and there's a reason why Mitch and Mason are backups.
Yeah.
But to have them as backups, that's not a bad thing.
Dude, our backup quarterback room is very dependable. Very dependable. And Mason, as a third guy, is a great insurance policy. So, honestly, man, the quarterback room, having the way it was last year and continuing that is a good trait to have secretly for the Steelers. Yeah. And in a lot of ways more than just on field. So, otherwise, that will do it for episode 12 of the Steeler Culture Podcast. So let us know what you guys think about all these moves and all the news surrounding the Steelers this week. I'm sure Omar Khan's going to have something up his sleeve because not only with the Witherspoon cut as well as the Mitch extension, the Steelers have saved over 10 to 11 million in cap just based on that. So is something secretly up their sleeve? Are they going to make a trade for a player? Is that clearing cap for Quan Alexander or Miles Jack or someone else?
Or could it lead to an Alex Highsmith extension?
Could very well do that because obviously that's on the back burner because of draft reasons. But now the draft is over, That's a great way to look at it. That might
And who
be...
remembers when Omar Khan extended how many players before the regular season or the preseason happened? Minka Fitzpatrick, Chris Boswell, Deontay Johnson.
all before preseason.
You know Alex Highsmith's going to be on the top of that list for extensions.
Yeah, exactly. So, the Steelers have something up their sleeve. They're doing all this for filling the roster, for filling training camp, for bodies, but also, they got something going, man. The con artist, King Khan, like we like to call him here, he might have something secret that he's plotting. So something's brewing, and I'm excited to figure out what that's going to be.
And I love it. I can't wait.
Cannot wait, and that just keeps our anticipation going for the entire offseason when it comes to the Steelers. So I love that they're still doing moves, and I don't anticipate them stopping. So we'll see what they do as the weeks go on, as we approach training camp. But that's the Steeler Culture Podcast, episode 12. Let us know your guys' thoughts about everything going on. Check out SteelTwins.com. We're going to have some content coming up on the website there, including one I want to write about Connor Hayward and what his role and how he could be the secret hybrid weapon for the Steelers offense. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do. And, I'm theoretically thinking how we can use Connor Hayward, especially with the drafting of Darnell Washington, how that really just benefits Hayward's role. So that article is going to be up on the Steel Yungers website, so look out for that. Otherwise, hit that like, hit that comment, hit that subscribe. See you in the next one.
And as always, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you later. Peace!